Hey team, welcome back to Game Time. I'm your coaching teammate, Shauna Griffiths, and as always, we are having an impactful conversation with an impactful leader. And I am so happy to welcome to the show Dilan Gomih. And Dilan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Already, anytime I get to see you, it's a joy and a pleasure for my day. So thank you.
You're so awesome. So, folks, I always tell you how I know my guest. So, Dilan and I met through our mutual friend, my longtime dear friend, Elisa Padilla. Dilan, you were on her IG live show, folks, at Kick It by EP. And your energy and your authenticity and the way you connected with her and all of us who were in the audience was awesome. And so I literally was listening to it and I was like, I have to have her on my show too. So thank you to Elisa. And thank you for this opportunity.
Again, I am so glad to be here with you. It can be recording or not. I just want to hang out with you on a regular basis.
No, I'm the one who is in awe of you. So folks, her last name is spelled Gomih. And I always really make a point of asking my guests how to say their name because it's important to me to try to pronounce it correctly. So she said her answer to me was "Go me," and I literally thought she was telling me to cheer for myself. I was like, "Okay, great, go me." But that's the story of Dilan Gomih. No, but the real story of Dilan Gomih is phenomenal. Oh God, where do we even start? From what I know about you, Harvard, Yale educated, you have killed it in the finance world. You are a fitness phenom. Now you have your own business, Dilagence, if I'm saying it correctly.
And there's a reason for the name, I promise.
Yes.
The power of a name. There's usually reasons for things, but there is one behind Dilagence beyond it just being a name, I promise.
Well, you're going to tell us about that in a second. But from what I've seen, your real focus on this bringing together wellness in the workplace, and that like your own definition of what that is. So I would love for you to just open us up by grounding us in what you're doing.
Yeah, so I am Dilan. I am the founder of a company called Dilagence that helps organize a performance strategy. So what that can look like is a lot of teams are sprinting and they don't have the ability to slow down. So we give them the strategies and the programs on how do you do that? How do you keep your mind in the game? How do you stay sharp even in those weeks that you might have to be working 10, 12-hour days? And then on the other side, we have these incredible people partners and HR partners that are creating benefits for these people. But then they're finding that folks don't have time to use the benefits, or they don't know about it, or they may not even care. So we are their partner for them to make sure that people are using the incredible benefits that they've created for their organizations to succeed. That's us in a nutshell.
So was that an idea that got sparked because you saw a problem, or was it a passion point in general, or where did you come up with it?
Yo, I wish that I could head nod whenever people are like, wow, you had a perfectly straight line. Because to a lot of people, the pathway just makes sense as if I planned it all. And I take joy and delight in the zigzags and feeling perfectly comfortable saying each step got illuminated to me along the way. So when I think about the organizations that we work with today, which is everything from legal to tech to finance, which is where I started my career, I actually wound up building something that was for me years ago. Or like I started my career on Wall Street. I know what it's like to be working 90-hour weeks, and I don't really have a choice other than executing. But what was within my control was how I managed my body and how I managed my mind, and figuring out how to do that during the day was made me not just good at what I did, but I was excellent at what I did because I'd figured out like how to like stay sharp. And for the athletes that are listening, I also grew up an athlete too. So like peak performance isn't just something we think about in sports. It's actually also like how we're spending the 10 to 12 hours a day at work. And there's strategies for that we can bring back from like our athletic guys. And even if you're not an athlete, just like you have a body, you have an amazing like vessel every single day that wants to serve you and serve your mind. So we help people connect with that. But I essentially built for something I would have loved to have when I was starting my career. Yeah.
I'm really glad you said it that way because I was actually thinking in preparation of this, I was thinking about my own journey and the mismatch between my own wellness and how hard working. And I was killing myself by sheer mental, physical exhaustion. And there wasn't anything along the way that taught me. And I'm not saying it's somebody else's responsibility per se, but I was in an environment that fostered wellness, flourishing, those type of things. I worked in environments that were more focused on churning out the work type thing.
Yeah, and at this point, you know me well enough in this world where as soon as you're saying, well, it was no one else's responsibility, and you know the first thing I have to do is go, hold on a second, though. Don't forget what the culture says, though. Sleep is for the weak. I'll rest when I'm dead. I'll sleep when I'm dead. This is also kind of what we hear when you're like, well, nobody's telling you to manage your well-being. But what you are hearing is there is no other option. And what we know is true. We kind of see it in the science. We see it in practice in other models, which is there are ways for success and joy to go hand in hand. There are ways to sprint and sustainably sprint. And again, if we think about the best athletes in the world, like, do you think LeBron is killing himself before a playoff game? No, he's actually kind of doing what he needs to do so he can give his full force energy when the pressure is on. And we're the same way. We just kind of need to keep pushing that messaging out. So I would even argue and be as bold to say that so much of what we do when it comes to programming for teams, it's education. It's just how do you do it? You know?
Right. That's what I mean. I didn't have, or I didn't even know to seek the education for how better to care for myself now that I was in the working stage. But it's actually interesting. I draw the parallel to what you're talking about with athletes as well, because you are a leadership athlete. Folks, I should have mentioned she's part of the 2025 draft class of leadership athletes, and you can tell why. You know, you're such an aware, authentic leader. I really respect the way that you're carrying yourself in your life and making this impact that, again, I didn't when I was playing basketball in college, when I was running cross country in grad school. It wasn't an environment at that point that was fostering the education in those things. College programs now, they're much more advanced. That's part of what I'm just so moved by what you're doing is because you are helping to close that gap. You're helping people to be better. My husband hates when I use this phrase, folks. Better set up for success. to be able to, you know, work well and to be well while you're working. And, you know, so I'm so grateful to see what you're doing because I think it's so needed.
Well, we can part two of this. Who's saying better set up for success? You know, part two. We can like
business language that he's like, oh God, you really have to use that business. It's kind of like okay, I'll circle back to that. You know, we try to, but anyway.
Okay.
But I just really do believe in the need to set people up for success in business. And I actually do think I try to hold myself accountable for situations and not say somebody else didn't teach me or someone else wasn't looking out for me. And that's just like, okay, well, my responsibility is to do those things for myself. So that's why I say, and at the same time, if you're an employer, if you are in a seat of leadership and people are in your care, if a business is in your care, then there is a responsibility, I believe.
Responsibility. And I also think it's responsibility, but there's also power for really good business, right? On both fronts. I love starting with the people partner side. We have both everyone in the C-suite aligned on how can we like create the most robust bottom line possible. We have humans in our workforce that are part of that incredible work. We have people partners that are providing benefits to support their productivity. But if our benefit suite isn't doing what we want it to do, which is drive productivity because people aren't using it, then that's wasted money and then also not helping to develop people that we actually care about developing. So it's a responsibility that is also synonymous with business outcomes. You're already spending money. If it's not doing what you want it to do, that's not a great like return on investment. But also you can help people crush it better for you if they do use your benefit suite, if it's the right thing for you. Flipping to the other side, just going to the professionals that are in the workplace, regardless of if it's about benefit, if it's about self-awareness, if it's about being aware of your well-being. I just don't think we're meant to be in this world to just get by every single day. there's this phrase that people will use like, oh, I just got through the day. I'm glad I just got through. And I almost dare people to track how many times they've said that recently, because I'm like, that's not how we're supposed to exist on this planet. I need your good days to outweigh the bad days. And if it's the inverse, then we got to change something. And I do think that your well-being, how you're feeling, how you're approaching your workday, even if it's something that you don't want to be doing, being able to zoom out and at least feel good about yourself increases how you work and your productivity. So there's a win-win to be had. And that's what I'm very much so after, is like doing it both for the organization and the professionals. There's an alignment that can be had, that we kind of have fun bringing together. Yeah.
It's so awesome that you're helping to bring that forward for people, because you do talk about the performance. You were just talking about that. And I know that you are an expert in human performance, and that is what we're talking about. I mean, for the audience, again, if you are in a seat of leadership, if people are in your care, then one of your goals, I believe, that you're responsible for is to help them be able to perform at their best. So the things that you're describing that you're having impact on, they actually do create a culture, an environment where people feel cared for, safe, those type of things. It's like turning down the volume of noise so that those people can actually go in and do their job and not have to fight those other things every day.
Oh my God. And there's so much data. I don't want to misquote the stat, so I won't run the risk, but there is a data point around how much time people spend just managing conflict, managing simple conflict where they don't feel psychologically safe, or they don't feel like the ability to say something, or they're just dealing with workplace conflict. And just imagine translating that lost time to dollars, versus if you have a culture where there will be healthy debate. Like, debate is actually quite good. Diversity of thought is fantastic, right? To make sure that you're not staying stale. Like, that's how you stay sharp. But imagine you have a healthy culture of debate that drives innovation. And again, you'll notice I keep connecting the dots back to the bottom lines. Like, innovation that's positive for your business translates to better business outcomes. So if you help people to feel like their opinion matters and they speak up in a meeting, and that's your company's next big idea, I see bottom line opportunity. So that's what I think in general, beyond my sphere of human performance and well-being. I think there's other aspects of business that sometimes struggle to push forward in organizations, but when you highlight, you have to make it make sense for the business. And if you can make the business case for it, it becomes a lot easier for decision makers to go, okay, it makes sense for us to pay attention. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm basically doing with well-being and health.
Yeah. Okay. So people in the audience, if you are struggling to figure out how to make it make sense on the business side of things, and why it's a smart investment to invest in the people's wellness, Dilan is your lady.
Yeah, we can help. It's almost like that's my business.
But it really is. I was talking to someone recently who is very, very senior in a global organization about some of the coaching stuff I do, and she's interested in it. And yet it came down to her anticipating it not be questioned as far as return. And so this is the kind of thing, folks, it does come down to when you're in a decision-making seat and you have to fight for something. And we all know you literally have to make a business case for why you want to spend this money, why you want to provide this for your staff. But so you're right. It always does come back to the money, because again, you're actually helping people to be able to perform better. I talk about it as optimal performance. You talk about it as human performance, maximizing that. But we need the tools to be able to do that, because we are humans and not robots.
And it's also just interesting. You can bring this right back to topic at hand. But when you said we're humans and not robots, there's so many ways that we go through life, we're almost forgetting that.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody says multitasking is a computer function, humans aren't designed to do that. Like, this is why we struggle with presence. Besides the fact that the data highlights that it's inefficient to multitask for humans, there's very, very strong cases that we're doing one thing at a time. But it's also what stops us from being present in the moment and being able to look out the window and go like, okay, the sun is shining. Like, that is freaking cool. Like, after days and days of being freezing, and I guess for context, I'm in New York and I have been freezing and I have a space heater right next to me. I'm going like, okay, cool. It's a nice day. I gotta pause and appreciate that. and then get into the next thing was actually a little bit more energy, right? There's another computer function that I thought about the other day where I was like, that's not how we were supposed to exist. But anyway.
I have worked in these environments where what's rewarded is the multitasking. What's rewarded is the maximizing what you can churn out, the number of hours you work, all those type of things. Not everywhere, but some places are like this. I've had health crises at different times throughout my journey where I was working for someone else, and it was obvious that I was having challenges. I was vocal about some of my challenges. It didn't matter. I don't think I expected like preferential treatment or something. I don't mean it that way. I think that, again, if you're a leader and you see that you've got some people struggling, then again, it's responsibility. What are you going to do about it? How do you help that person, but also help people not get to that point? I worked at a place where literally someone felt they had to be in the office, so they brought their ID with them from the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And
that's
like,
what I mean. That's not about taking care of your people. That's not teaching them how to take care of themselves or providing a resource like you who can help in that.
Yeah, and it's super interesting because, like, we'll state a reality where there are some firms that the nature of their workforce is short term, right? So that's how they view it and they approach it, and that is what they've decided. Cool. But then there are these really cool opportunities with leaders or with some companies to highlight that that's actually a very short-sighted way to treat people, right? So taking that potentially burned out leader and saying, okay, we need to help you get your energy back. Well, it's not just about their energy in the short term, but you've also done something so powerful for that person that in recognizing their humanity, that they're like, oh, this is a place where I can stay. This is a place where I'm seen. And that person's going to stay loyal to you and engaged for you and productive because they feel supported. So it's not just like, oh, in the short term, give them the day off. The messaging is, if you care about me, then I care about the work I do for you. It becomes harder for that person to want to leave. And then you get the benefits of that person, that your institutional knowledge bank. When you hire new people, this person's a go-to person. There's so many positive things that come from those little small moments that an organization may overlook and be like, well, you need to deal with it on your own. Turn into small things that you gave that meant so much to that individual and translates to more productivity, bigger steps, loyalty to you. That, don't forget, people move organizations all the way, that there's networking effects based off that too. So like part of our job, like you and I, is just widening the aperture of like, yes, it's culture, it's people,
yes,
but there's other things that you need to see. Like these are other business implications. And I want you to think a little bigger about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's something else you said. I'll come back to it when it comes to it. But.
Yeah. So as you were talking, I'm thinking you clearly have done so much in this space. And we started the conversation, we were talking about the things that you've done, your schooling. I said you were, killing it in finance. You had the courage to make these shifts to create the reality that you have today, which is awesome and inspiring. And I'm sure it wasn't easy. So I would love to talk about that openly, for the audience, because I think there's so many of us who find ourselves along those, key moments, inflection points, and I love the way you've courageously carved out your own reality.
Oh yeah, let me be super clear. I had no intention to be an entrepreneur. That was the game plan, man. Also, I always make this joke about Dylan is actually kind of how you say all 5 of my long Nigerian names at once. Once I found out that my name was much longer than what my original first name was, I was like, wait, and you guys tried to make me pick one? Oh, no. And this is like funky younger me where I'm like, I'm going to find a way to make it so you are saying all my names at once. So like Dylan actually is an amalgamation of all of my Nigerian names. Going back to the Nigerian part is like people joke that lots of Nigerians are doctors, lawyers, or engineers. Yeah. And in my family, that's kind of true. Just about everyone is that. But to the point of like, where does my comfort in bucking the shoulds or bucking convention come from is over time, I really did get comfortable with this concept of I don't like regret. I don't like sitting in it. I really like the framework of like, what would 80-year-old me have been good with? And again, people see a linear path, but with each step forward, I'll just connect the dots. I was working in finance full time. I had no intention of going to the fitness space until I really, really did understand how much it did for me as a human. And I'm like, wait a second. There's an opportunity to make the world feel the way that I feel when I go into work. I don't know how to do that right now, but I figure there's got to be a way, and maybe I should learn what that looks like. And that's what would made me go back to school. That's what made me go to Harvard Business School. That's what made me start teaching fitness while I was working full time, where I'm like, I didn't mean it to be the test, but I was working full time and teaching fitness classes. So I'm in a world where I have no time. I've somehow been able to create capacity. And it wasn't because, well, sure, I'm a little bit of a crazy person, but also how I managed my mind and my body and my work product, because there's no way in hell finance is not forgiving. If you're not doing your job, you're out. I had to excel, but managing my own well-being was what allowed me to create capacity. And then for the subsequent steps, it's like, I have this opportunity now to be part of this world. I can shape what I want to see. And I had this really cool opportunity to manage and lead in some of these top fitness firms, and at the same time keep teaching. For me, it has been about purpose. It has been saying, like, I know what convention is. I know what the shoulds are, but my spirit is also so deeply unsettled with not believing in myself, rejecting what other people had been telling me that they believed that I can do. And, you've heard it on this call. You've heard it on our other calls. I actually love hyping other people. It took me a little too long to listen to the hype that people were giving back to me. And about 2 years ago, there were like a bunch of people that when I was thinking about like getting ready to start Dilagence, they're like, where have you been? How many times do we have to tell you that you can do it? How many times do you have to hear this message? And it's funny, as a fitness instructor, one of the things I'll tell people is like, teaching fitness is one of the master classes you can take in communication as a leader in general. If you want somebody to do a squat 30 seconds from now, you're going, in 30 seconds, we're doing a squat. 15 seconds from now, we're doing a squat. You're doing a squat in 3, 2, 1, now you're in a squat. And kind of hearing back to people, we've been telling you this for years, that you could build something. We told you could build something. We told you 2 years ago you could build something. Now you're building something. Go. So yeah, I think fear of regret was a big driver. Also just this realization of like, I also have to receive. I love to give, but I needed to receive what people were telling me. And then I got to tell you that I also try not to lament it, quote unquote, too long, because I do realize like all of the steps that got me to doing what I was doing now were so important. Where like, there's nothing that I should have stayed in, right? And there's nothing that I should have skipped over, because each of those steps prepared me to be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. Sorry, Mr. Griffiths, but it did set me up for success. It did set me up for success. So John, but it was very purpose driven, very, very much so, like pulled by like, how can I do this? I have curiosity about it. It's no longer curiosity. I feel pulled. Let me understand how to make the move.
Yeah. So as you're talking, I'm going, wow, there's a lot that you're saying that deeply resonates with me, even the part about, teaching fitness class and finding your voice. But it was my translation of what you said, related, like communicating. I actually used to have a really hard time getting the words out of my mouth, and more in a business sense, for if I had to go speak up about something. And I kind of forced myself to become a yoga teacher at one point as a way to get myself to be able to use my voice. And I was able to do it then. And then because I felt there was a degree to which I had to get used to hearing my own voice out loud and not feeling I needed to quiet my voice, both literally and, figuratively. So anyway, I deeply resonate with what?
I said that was beautiful. Like I've never heard it phrased like that.
Yeah, so I doubling down on that, folks. If you feel challenged, get the words out of your mouth, to speak up, to use your voice, to find ways to do it. Not everybody has to teach fitness class or yoga or something. Well, whatever you can do to people. I know I have a person who I worked with who ended up taking improv. So again, it's different things you can do, but actually just start doing.
Yeah. And think of it as continuing to sharpen your game, right? And there's so many ways that, like, if somebody feels fazed by that, again, I'm just going to go back to the like athlete examples. We're always in training. Even when you're the best at what you do, there's more that you can learn. There's more that you can like do that incremental like 1%. So even if you're a fitness instructor or you're a person that discovered improv, that was their 1% thing. A few years ago, I took a stand-up class and I was just like, wait, what am I doing? It's like, and by the way, stand-up is not easy. No, it's not. I haven't done that in a while, but like, no, it was, for me, it was actually similar to your yoga. The insight to me was like, stand-up was that for me when I was a founder, beginning my founder's journey. So that was right around when I did it, where I had to get comfortable with landing things in digestible nuggets. Fitness for me wasn't that, but stand-up was like being ready to stand up in front of people that don't have to be impressed. And in fact, you're starting from a place of you have to impress. And stand-up was a great exercise for that. Yeah.
That's such a great, folks, that's such a great. But speaking of, you said that you hadn't heard anybody phrase it like I did. You said something earlier that I wrote down. I wanted to say it back because it was poetic. Basically, you said that managing your wellness creates capacity. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So folks, managing your wellness creates capacity. Mm-hmm. People a lot of times are looking for, how do I cram more in my day? Where do I find more time to do more things? But the way you said that is genius. Tell us what that means when you have more capacity.
Yeah. So one, it's actually incredibly clarifying. People have these long to-do lists, right? And they're like, oh, I'm never going to get anything done. But when you're managing like what's actually important to you and you're managing your mind, you go, oh, wait, it's actually these 3 things that move the needle. And you get those things done. And then you have the ability to go, what's next? You're creating space in your life to actually not just be doing things, not just be busy, but to make an impact with each thing that you do. I also do think joy and capacity are pretty related to each other, right? So think about how much fuller and richer any activity is when you like it. Even work. And in simplistic words, I'll just say it's time. It's time. I'll meet people all the time that are like, oh my gosh, I don't have a single minute in my day. Like I'm back to back to back to back to back. But then it's that deep breath and standing up in between meetings that actually is getting oxygen to your brain, is helping you to think better. And quite literally, you go, oh wait, actually, this next activity doesn't make sense. I should be doing this. And the next thing you know, you're finishing work a little faster. You're able to go home a little sooner, or maybe going to bed 30 minutes incrementally earlier. You're actually getting the sleep that you need. Really important, by the way. I'm not going to tell anyone, especially if you're a parent, to get like 8 to 9 hours a week. That feels like deeply unfair. But incrementally more sleep is going to help you reset for the next day. So it's like you do these little shifts that increase more time, improve the quality of each of the things that you're doing. You're focused on your priorities. And it sets off this whole flywheel of how you're opening up your time and opening up your capacity, which hopefully allows you to see, what do you actually want to be doing? And maybe you should just be doing that.
Yeah. When you were talking about it that way, it made me think of, I've seen this written a few times, and people say that if someone comes to, if their reaction isn't fitting the situation, so maybe they come to something, their reaction should be a 5, but it's a 10 or it's a 12. When you were saying that, it reminded me of, this is part of why when you don't have that capacity, when you're not doing those things that you're just talking about, that's part of what contributes to a reaction that's not fitting for, for the situation per se. So that's really good to think about. And I really appreciate you giving even examples in there of standing up, taking a breath, getting oxygen to your brain. Because again, I think people, a lot of times we miss those little things that have huge impact and they're so simple and you can control them. Nobody can take it from you. It's so important. You talked about that actually on Elisa's on the IG live that I mentioned earlier about the brain. And I mentioned to you, I have thought about it so many times since then. You were talking about wanting your brain to be sharp every
Yeah.
day. I would love for you to talk about that more, because usually when I hear people talking about wellness or fitness, they're thinking about the physical sense of, do you have muscles? Are you fit? Fat to muscle ratio, those type of things. Or they're talking about brain health as in supplements and things like that. So it's just a really refreshing way. Can you talk about it a bit here?
Yeah, and essentially what you're getting, I think I maybe said something along the lines of like firing off at all cylinders, something like that. And what I'm alluding to is just your mind and your body are just so reinforcing of each other. So I'll say the things that may not feel like rocket science. Like we know that our brain needs oxygen. That's what allows us to think better. We also know separately when it comes to the body part, when we move around, that is increasing blood circulation and getting oxygen to our brain. What we forget is what's in between. So if we want our brain to be working better, we have a justification to move. And we don't connect the dots between these things all the time. But if you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, I need to be sharper, I need to be like firing off at all cylinders, there's a mind-body connection. Your body is reinforcing how your brain works. It doesn't leave things off the table. On the flip side, your mind can also remind you to listen to your body. So we work with so many people who go through the day with, for example, back pain. And they feel themselves getting more irritated and they're like, oh, I'm feeling snappier and stuff in meetings. And I'm like, how long are you sitting? And they're like, all day, back to back to back. And I was like, are you in pain? And they're like, yeah, I feel tightness everywhere. Like, well, your body is telling you that you're not okay. You're actually not doing your best work. Your mind is letting you know that. You're just not letting it register. There's ways that we try to put these things in silos, but they very much so give you all the signs and the signals and information to do the next best thing to get back to a state of higher productivity, right? So if you have tightness in your chest, you need to take a deep breath. Taking the deep breath is self-awareness, which allowing you to go, okay, I'm not thinking or doing my best possible work. I have to do the next best thing so that way I can do my best work. Feeling pain somewhere, got to manage it. Obviously, chronic pain, that might be something different, but that's a signal that you need to pay attention, get some energy back so that way you can go back to doing your best work. I'm putting these two things one after another because they aren't disparate. We try to make it disparate. We try to just say it's only about fitness. And I always tell people, if you are a leader, if you're somebody that is managing others, if you have a decision-making capacity, you actually have a business justification to get moving because it's making your brain better.
You just referenced something like that you're saying the obvious, but here's the thing, it's not. And I think our bodies tend to at times hold our breath.
Oh yeah. Or
Like,
grind our teeth.
if you're listening to this and I just said that and you pay, like pay attention, where you just breathe, are you breathing actually? Or are you holding your breath? And then what type of breath is it? Is it shallow? Like all of these things, I guess I hate to use the word should, but they should, air quotes, be obvious to us, but we can overlook them. And because again, what we've been rewarded in society to a large degree is to overlook those things. And like, if I'm tired, I'll go get a cup of coffee instead of I'm tired, let me do some breathing exercises to bring that into myself.
You're actually underscoring something else that's super important, right? So like someone's like, I'm tired, let me go get a cup of coffee. And then I'm open to what the answer is, but I'll go, did it actually help? Did it really change something for you?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because more often than not, like that isn't it's the patch, but it isn't like solving like, well, why are you perpetually tired? And maybe it's better to treat the root cause and make some adjustments in like how you're working. So the truest energy source that you need is, can you get incrementally more sleep? So that way you're not actually so tired by like 2 or 3 p.m. or whatever it is. So you're right. I'm not trying to say it's super simple, but what I don't mind offering is a lot of what we discuss. We've actually been doing for thousands of years, operating and paying attention to our natural biological state gets us pretty far in the day, but we overlook it or we forget that it's really important to pay attention. Next time you just had that cup of coffee because you're tired, pay attention. Did it actually help? When you take a deep breath, pay attention. Maybe you might notice, sure, you're relieving the tightness in your chest, but you actually took time to do something good for yourself, which also might make you feel good, which might make you approach your work a little better the next time. So maybe you find more times to do what's helpful and do less of what's not. Maybe it's not coffee anymore. Maybe it's, you realize when you got to bed 30 minutes earlier, 3 to 4 nights a week, the next day went better. Maybe you should get to bed 30 minutes earlier, 3 to 4 nights a week, because you know what the outcome is. The next day goes better.
So we're looking to make sure we're walking away from this episode with some tips. I hear being curious. I hear being self-aware, and then following up on the curiosity by actually asking yourself questions and listening to your own answer. So those are a few tips. Anything else that you encourage us to do to help ourselves?
I'm going to get super tangible, y'all. Okay, so one, I always like to highlight, sometimes our day gets hijacked from the moment we wake up by your phone. So do your absolute best not to check on your phone first. Take a few deep breaths and think about what you want. So those two things go hand in hand. Take the deep breath when you wake up and use that breath to think about what do you want. And then from there, everything that you see on your phone, your notifications, your emails, it has to fit into what you've decided. 2, one size doesn't fit all. I don't care how you build a movement in whatever way is most successful to you. You could get off the elevator a step early or flight early. You could play the FaceTime culture game and say, hey, colleague, let's go for a walk. But taking a walk or movement intraday isn't selfish. It is a strategy for you to be doing your best work. So find ways to build it into your existing system. And then to your point, pay attention. If in anything else that we do, business related, we track our trends, right? We pay attention to what is working, what is not. Your most important system is you. So what systems are actually supporting the way that you need to be working? What signs have you been overlooking? What are your signs? For some people, it's tightness in the chest. For some people, it's headache. For some people, it's fatigue. What signs have you been missing? What's the root cause? And then what's the little strategy you can build in to actually make it so that's not getting you as often? And you're actually regularly catching yourself going, I'm not doing my best work. I need to make this step, whether it's the walk, whether it's the breath, whether it's, I don't know, the dance party. I'm a huge fan. Know your favorite song, whatever it is. So that way you're going back to thriving mode, not in survival mode.
That's good. I love that. I love that double down on asking yourself, checking in with yourself, that honesty of what am I doing or not doing. I think the element also can be what are you doing? Because to your point about the phone, I think we end up doing things that to a large degree end up, I don't know if you want to call it self-sabotage or the things that get in our way, and then we keep doing them because we build habits on both sides, right? On habits that are productive as well as counterproductive.
Yeah, and I think there's two fronts, right? So there are times that I'll start with the rough part first and then go back to the sugary side. There are times that we'll make excuses, right? When somebody's like, knows something is important, I don't have time. It's like, or you're putting things in the way, and there is a way that you just don't want to confront right now. But then sometimes there really are valid things that you have to confront, right? But I will say that for that latter piece, especially when it comes to well-being habits, to be open to the idea that consistency doesn't mean having a firm or really rigid grip of what consistency is supposed to look like.
Right.
Consistency actually means frequency. So the more that you can get in the habit of going like, okay, I wanted to take a walk at this time, I can't, but I can go at this time. That actually helps to remove some of the guilt or the shame that we are very, very prone to feeling, which leads to inaction.
Yes.
Right? And open to being flexible and dynamic with how activities in your life happen. So you'll notice that I said when it came to sleep, I didn't say, you need to start going to bed 8 to 9 hours or sleeping for 8 to 9 hours, and you have to have a perfect bedtime, and you need to throw your phone away 3 hours before bed, because that's not realistic. It's not fair. If you're working, there might actually be things that come up. But being dynamic, flexible, and adaptable means if you say, I can't go to bed an hour early, instead of going, well, then I'm just going to keep working. It's like, well, I'm going to go to bed as soon as I can, maybe 15 minutes, and take that as a win. Celebrate the win. As opposed to being like, oh, it was only 15 minutes. Hey, it was 15 minutes earlier than yesterday. And approaching things with a bit more of a positive mindset, with a bit more of a doability mindset, actually leads to things getting done. Versus a lot of times when people feel guilt or shame, or they feel like they haven't hit the perfect mark, they don't actually change their habits at all.
Well, I love that you've blown up perfectionism, because I have no time for perfectionism.
You don't. You actually don't.
And I am adding, folks, that something that I did today even was sometimes if you think of someone who is going to inspire you to do the thing, to shift that. I thought of Dylan today because I didn't get my morning workout in. Later, I thought of Dylan and wellness and business connection and all of that. And I was like, oh, I'm squeezing it in right here. And so I did. I found 43-minute workout on the bike that I did. So thank you, Dylan. And at the end of the day, you kind of have to figure out the thing that's going to motivate yourself. And so I just channeled Dylan. So I'm offering that one up as well. Channel someone who helps to spark you.
If you're only listening on audio, you just missed that I did a whole dance party in celebration of your 43-minute ride, which, by the way, counts as movement. It does.
It's so true. Okay, so as people are listening to this, because you're so fabulous, and the things that you're saying, I think, hit on so many things that are relatable. It gives people the tools to do for themselves, but I think also to be able to talk about it with each other, or even within business. So your company, talk to us a little bit about what it looks like to work with you.
So if you have a company, I would say that on the programming side, the easiest thing to do is you have an upcoming offsite or a new hire training, or you would actually just love us to come talk to your workforce. Easiest way to engage there. And as you're thinking through your benefit strategy or your potentially well-being or high performance curriculum, we would love to be your partner on that side too. For individuals, a huge part of my passion and energy for this is being accessible. So we have a free newsletter called the C-Suite Workout, where at least monthly, we are sharing high performance hacks and tips that are meant to be doable and useful for folks. So you can get us on both ends. An ideal world, if you work at a company, bring us in. Whatever your next offsite programming ERG is, pull us in. We'd love to be of service.
That's awesome. Thank you. And this is all under your company, Dilagence, right? So tell us the story of the name.
Right. So Dylan, or Dilagence, spelled Dilagence, is absolutely a play on my name because you can't pass that up, right? The actual definition of the word diligence is persistent, energetic effort. So everything that you need to be a leader, but also what you need to bring a habit, in particular a well-being habit, into your life. And I really love highlighting that even for me, right? Where well-being is my passion, my focus, it's a pursuit. It's not something that you're done with. It's something that you're always going to continue sharpening and being diligent about. So that is the backstory.
I love it. I love it. You mentioned earlier you're Nigerian. You mentioned it with respect to your name. I don't know if people ever ask you, how are you the way you are? Why are you the way you are? I mean, your approach to life, this idea of living each day fully, your idea of taking care of yourself, the wellness, the creating impact in this world. And I'm curious, do you think that there's a connection to your culture, to your upbringing?
All of it. So I'm first gen Nigerian American. And when I think about, my entire family is back in Nigeria, and the bravery and audacity that my parents had to have to leave their whole support system behind and then come to a country, build something for themselves and then for their family, like that energy and honoring like the mindset that they had to like believe that they could build a better life is something like I grew up watching. And then I would say particularly like my mom is somebody who I'm the last of four, but basically after each kid, she went back to school and got another degree. So, she got a master's after my oldest brother. She got her MBA after my sister was born. After I was born, she got her law degree. And, on Monday, I'm actually going to go see her get admitted to the bar of the Supreme Court of the United States, which means that at almost 70, she can try a case before the Supreme Court. So when you have those as models of people that have worked incredibly hard, been comfortable with the zigzags, and then constantly believed and reinvested in themselves because they wanted to create a better life for themselves, I hope, first and foremost, but also for their kids, it also becomes a little more doable. So I will say that they are definitely my models for like, okay, it can be done. I don't know how yet, but I can figure it out. I like them a lot. I'm a big fan of them. I'll say I'm a big fan of them.
I like them a lot. Please tell them I said hi. Here's one of the things I love about that is that you just talked about being able to see something, so then you knew it was possible for yourself, and that, that things were possible if you followed a certain way of being, a certain way of showing up in this world. So I just thank you for sharing that powerful story. That's amazing. And the word that you used has been coming up a lot, and I love this, is audacity. So I love it, love it, love it, because so many people usually think of it as a negative thing, but I love it. It's like, no, they had the audacity to do these things. Like what you just described about your mom, then look at you and all the things that you've done. I am here for it. And I'm just, thank you for sharing it all with us today. So thank you, Dylan. I hope everybody, you have taken a lot from this.
I certainly hope it was helpful. I don't know any other way to be in this world. But thank you for hanging out, or letting me hang out with you. And until part 2, because I think I get to see you next week too.
Oh yeah, we do. Cool. We do next week too. So you can all see why I had to scoop up Dylan. Everyone, have an amazing day, and please keep your wellness in mind, wellness in the workplace and wellness as you're just walking this earth. So thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.